First one of the morning. Let's get him back before the sun's even up. So there's crappie number 3. Crappie number 5. Let's turn the camera around and talk about the day before we get too in deep with what we're doing. Let him go and talk crappie fishing. Good morning, folks. It is Nick Mulbauer here, and I've been waiting a while for this day. We've had a lot of wind in Iowa lately, anywhere from 10 to 30 mile an hour, and that is just tough conditions to fine tune and vertical jig crappie. You got to really put that jig right on their nose, and when you got even the slightest breeze, it really makes it difficult to place that lure. I've been out here a while already. I've been here since dark. I've been here in the dark. What I've been doing is I've been looking at various brush piles and just seeing if there are bait fish around them. With my down and side imaging, I've seen forage everywhere. So there's forage around these brush piles, and I always like to see that, because if there's forage in the area and there's cover in the area, there are usually crappie in the area. And I usually tend to come up on better quality crappie when I have that forage and that cover. I'm looking for a big one this morning. I'd love to catch another 14-inch class fish, 13, 14-inch. That would be awesome. That would make my day. Water temp is 56 degrees. Winds out of the southeast. Calm day. Beautiful morning. Let's drop a jig down there. We'll give you more tips along the way and see if we can catch some crappie. See you soon. All right, folks, so I'm going to be kind of quiet here. I just pulled up on this brush pile again right after chatting with you guys and immediately caught one of the better fish. So we'll get that one back. And we'll talk about the temperament of the fish. And I like to talk about the temperament of the fish. That one, I barely felt the fish. There was no thump. It was just a change in the pressure of my jig. And I just lifted up into that fish real light and set the hook on him that way. We've had a variety of temperament from these fish. We've had some thump it, we've had some nose it. So we'll get that jig back down there. I got that 1 1/4 inch on, and they're just nosing it. On these days where there's no wind, I really like to fish the smallest lure I can get away with. It generates a lot of strikes, and it generates big bites too. Those big fish do not shy away from a small lure. They'll hit it just as good as any smaller fish. So I get a lot of bites, and I get big bites on those small lures. 1 1/4 inch Bobby Garland and a 1/32 ounce jig head. Does damage. There's the big one. Oh, there he is, guys. There's the giant. Get a measure on this fish. I can't believe that stayed. Look at that. 1 1/4 inch, just like I said. 1 1/4 inch Bobby Garland. Like I mentioned, those little baits get those big fish to bite, especially on those calm, windless days. They don't need much. We'll drop this fish in the water, get off this brush pile a little bit, and get a measure. Between 14 1/4 and 14 1/2 inches. So I got my 14-inch class fish. That's what I wanted. Super tall. Beautiful, beautiful crappie. That's the one I wanted. So if we leave the day not catching another one that size, we can be really happy, because that was the goal of the day. And I'm only about 40 minutes in, and a lot of it has been a hassle. But we'll release that fish, let him swim off. Turn the camera back around after measuring that fish. We're going to talk about some more specifics. Great time to talk a bit more about crappie fishing. What a heck of a crappie. That is what I am talking about. That is why I spend all this time out here fine-tuning these fish. I just love catching tank crappie. And while I got the camera turned around, I want to talk about those buoys back there and how darn important I think they are. What I've found is this buoy right behind me here, some of these fish are about 3 feet off it to the south. They're 3 feet south and about a foot or two west of that buoy. And that is how fine-tuned the location of those crappie are. If I drop in that area, I have a way higher bite percentage than other areas of the brush. That's what I've learned about how the fish are setting up today and in this moment. Having those buoys and seeing where I am at in relationship to those buoys really allows me to find where the best place is to get the most bites on that particular pile of cover. They're excellent. I highly suggest them, especially if you're not an angler who is using live scope like me. I cannot see how those fish are relating other than my flasher, and it doesn't paint as much of a picture as live imaging can. So those buoys really help me see where those fish are at, and it allows me to play those fish more than if I did not have those buoys. With no wind and buoys, I can get that jig right in front of those fish and just let them stare at it until one wants to take a whack at it. Let's get that jig back down there, catch some more crappie. So much fun, guys. Love it. Getting these fish patterned in, and it is a pattern I don't do very often, so I'll tell you guys about it. Still on that 1 1/4 inch electric chicken. Another banger crappie, guys. An absolute brute tank, whatever you want to call it. Huge fish. I'm using my paddle to rotate my kayak, and I'm swimming that bait through the water column. I'm just going in circles, and then I'll double back and swim this way, and every now and then I'll pop it, and it gives that bait a really good swimming action. It looks very real. Vertical jigging is not a very realistic presentation. It's a very effective presentation, but it's not realistic in my opinion. So by rotating my kayak, I'm allowing that bait to just swim through the water column in a natural way, and that is how I'm picking up these giant crappie. They know what food looks like, and I'm actually having a better time just trying to mimic that bait fish instead of vertical jigging. Has gotten so bad that what I decided to do was just fish this little piece of wood that's visually sticking out of the water, and I stick a giant white crappie. I think that might call a day for me, because this is just getting out of hand how difficult it is to fish with the wind. But that is an awesome way to end the day. Beautiful white there, probably a 13, I'd say. Let that one go. And that just goes to show how you can find crappie on the smallest amount of cover. That's just one log going down into the water. It's next to nothing, but it's still something for fish to gravitate to. This entire old borrow pit has no cover. It's just a giant sand flat. There's no rock. There aren't any breaks in this quarry. Any tiny piece of cover, you can expect a fish to potentially set up on it, and that was a great example of how a nice big crappie like that can just set up on next to nothing. One branch and that crappie was up on it. I'm not going to bang you guys over the head with any more tips in this video, because I think I gave you guys plenty to think about and try. But I do want to leave you guys with just this one thought before we end the video. I catch more big crappie by just fishing really slow and really quiet than any other method. That is my big crappie secret. Slow, quiet, like you're not even there. Like and subscribe if you guys dig the video. I really appreciate all the engagement. I appreciate all your help, and I hope you guys are gaining a little bit of knowledge by watching these videos. Thank you so much. It is never taken for granted. I'm gonna get out of here. If you guys want to stick around, I got one more big catch after this. Check it out if you'd like. Lots of big crappie that day. Super fun. Get yourself some and have a wonderful weekend. Have a good one, guys. Shit. Gosh, there's crappie number 5, guys. Look how tall that thing is. Good grief. I went to another brush. My darn battery died again right when I pulled this brood in, but look at that fish, guys. Look at that giant crappie. Freaking tank. Another giant, huge fish. Super tall, beautiful crappie. Tank.